Hey guys, it's Brett. Thanks for dropping by. So today we are in full swing between the Booker list and the National Book Award long list, which just came out this past week. So I just wanted to do a quick talk about both of them and give my impressions of what I think is could end up on the short list for the Booker Prize, which will be announced later this week, and also some preliminary impressions of what I think of the National Book Award long list. So let's get going. All right, so first of all, the Booker Prize. The Booker Prize shortlist is coming out this week. But I have to preface this all by saying between these two lists, both the Booker and the National Book Award, there has been such a brouhaha over on Instagram. I can't speak as much to it over here, but the discussions that are going on about these lists is amazing and fascinating. Fascinating, especially now with the list coming out. I'm going to work a little backwards here with the National Book Award this week. There has been utter outrage at the omissions that have been left off this list, not the least of which include Jesmyn Ward's for her new book and Lauren Groff for The Vaster Wilds. People are going crazy. And there's been a lot of discussion about, for the National Book Award, why aren't there some more of the bigger, heavy hitter writers that we would have come to expect on there? And they all seem relatively new, a lot of these people. All of this is, I'm kind of taking a backseat and observing it. The one thing I will say, and I think it is fantastic, is these discussions are even happening. I think social media has really driven these book prizes exponentially over the years, and it's become such an event. And certainly we can even see that when you go to the websites of, say, like the Booker Prize, to see how much more it's been upped and upped and upped from year to year. So to me, yes, there's always going to be books that don't make these lists that, for any of us that read any of them, are going to be mad of ones that are on the long list that we feel certainly deserve to make the short list. Hello, The Colony last year, which, for me was my favorite book. That said, when Seven Lives won, I was really happy for it because of that short list. It was my favorite one. So I felt like I still kind of got what I wanted, but I was devastated when The Colony was not shortlisted. So I think there's always going to be that. And there's always going to be the things that some books that speak more strongly to us than others. But what I do find fascinating is none of us know what's actually going on among those judges, the conversations that are being had, what books have been submitted to be put into consideration. This week on the Gaze Reading podcast, for those of you who might have checked it out and are listening, we are going to have on a kind of a double banger Booker episode. The first is Gabby Wood, who is the director of the Booker Foundation. She was on with us and talked about the prize, kind of how it works, kind of what the judges go through. She takes us through the process. It was a really cool and incredible conversation. She was awesome. In addition to that, we're also going to be having one of the long-listed authors, Tan Thuong Anh, on for his book of The House of Doors, which I can't believe we got him, and B,
I can't believe we got him.
And I'm so excited because I just finished the book yesterday and I absolutely loved it. So please check that out if you're interested in all things Booker. And that will be coming out Thursday, which is also the day the shortlist will be announced. So to that end, I wanted to talk about the 6 books that I thought were going to end up on the shortlist. Now, full disclosure, I have not read all these books. I have only read a handful of them. So this is a combination of some of what I've read and by looking at other people's, what people have been responding to. I've been in a Booker group on Bookstagram, everyone discussing on there what they've been responding to. So it's a little bit of a stab in the dark, but honestly, isn't all of this? I mean, really. Okay, so the first book I think that will be on, and I just spoke about it, was The House of Doors by Tan Thuong Anh, and thank you to Bloomsbury for this copy. This is not even out, and this comes out in the U.S. I think October 14th, I believe. beautiful. I loved this. Such an elegantly written book. I immediately went and ordered his first two books, both of which were also longlisted for the Booker. His second book, The Garden of Evening Mist, was shortlisted. Just beautiful. The story of M. Somerset Maugham, who arrives to visit a friend of his in Penang, Malaysia, a husband and wife who have their own kind of issues. It's really, I absolutely loved it. So that's one. The Bee Sting by Paul Murray, and thank you to FSG for this. Loved this book. I just read a thing that Paul Murray said, book length shouldn't matter as long as you're engaged in the book, and it certainly doesn't here. This is huge. Loved it from the beginning. Like some people, I didn't love the end of this book. I have issues with the end of this book, which obviously I'm not going to talk about here and spoil anything. That said, it didn't take away kind of the power of the reading experience as a whole for me. I thought it was so well wrought. The subtle things that he does as we follow the different characters in this family of four, I thought were so genius. Again, I went right out and ordered Skippy Dies because I had not read Skippy Dies, which had also been up for the Booker as well. That's the second for me. Third one I haven't read is Prophet Song by Paul Lynch. I've had so many people say that they think this is going to be on there, taking place in a modern Ireland, but kind of a dystopian story of what could happen. So that's it. That's all I know, except people have been like, it's fantastic. I've ordered it. That's what I'm going to read. I think I've also said before on a side note, I really had no intention with this or the National Book Award to read the whole thing. I didn't feel compelled. Ironically, though, I'm kind of working my way through the entire Booker list at least. I will say I've liked everything I've read so far in varying degrees, but really have liked everything. Next up, I think Martin McInnes has a really good shot. This has been one of the most talked about right from the start. I think what is the outlying part of this book is that it's considered sci-fi. And yet I think enough of it's grounded in reality, for lack of a better word, that I think it has a real shot. I think it's some absolutely beautiful writing. The book is a little long going for me. And I really had to dig deep in the end to make sure I understood the end. But I think it would be absolutely a worthy addition and a really cool addition to the final grouping. Okay, so I had a toss up really between two books, and I'm going with one, but it could be another. So for me, I chose Old God's Time by Sebastian Barry, which I did read. I listened to it. I know a lot of people this has been a very kind of split with how people have reacted to this. It absolutely worked for me. I think the dark nature of this story is something that really unsettled a lot of people. It is about a man, a former cop who's retired. He's widowed. We find out through the course of the story, both of his children are also gone, have also passed away. So he's at this very kind of low point in his life, and he's approached by his former coworkers to come and help investigate charges brought against the Catholic Church and two priests for assaulting young children. So this is not a happy book in any stretch of the imagination. It's all told first person from this character's mind, which is beginning to fail a bit. So there's moments when he becomes somewhat of an unreliable narrator. But I listened to this on audio and it was captivating. I spent many a night walking my dogs to this book, and I don't know, it really, really, really worked for me. So I would love to see this on here. The other book that was just as good to me, and I would love to see this too, but it wasn't one that I absolutely think will be there, which is Pearl. Another one that I listened to on audio, and it was beautifully told. And there's something about hearing that Irish lilt. I don't know. I just have to say overall, and I should just do a whole post on so many books that I've read this year that have just knocked it out of the park for me are Irish writers. And again, I'm blown away. So, and then the final book, which I have not read, but I'm very intrigued by, is All the Little Bird Hearts. So, the thing about this is it's written by a neurodivergent author. And I'm intrigued. That's all I'm really going to say about it because I don't know enough about it to get into it, so I'm not. So all I'm going to say is, from what I'm reading about it, it sounds really interesting. That's the most general, blasé, and boring kind of push for why I think it should be on the shortlist, but that's my kind of stab in the dark. Okay. All right, so let's move on to the National Book Award. Of this list of these 10 books, I've read 2 of them, which I was really hoping for more. I'm always hoping for more. I read Chain Gang All-Stars and I read Blackouts. Of those, first of all, I understand why both of them would be on this list. I get it. Chain Gang All-Stars, while I loved what he was saying, I loved what he was doing, I felt a certain remove from the book. It didn't completely work for me personally, but I know it's been a book that a lot of people have loved. I just felt a certain remove from it. Blackouts has been an interesting book, as I think I've spoken about this before. And I never, ever do this for any other reason, just because, except for time, but I want to reread Blackouts. Blackouts is genius, frankly. And I think Justin Torres I love the way his mind works in this kind of large scale history of queerness and queer people told through these 2 men that are in a hospital, an older man and a younger man who had met at one point in a psychiatric hospital. Justin Torres apparently based this element of the book on Manuel Puig's Kiss of the Spider Woman. The book plays with form and ideas, and there are illustrations, there are photographs, and it covers a lot of territory. And there were moments when I felt like, am I getting all this? I've now read some interviews with Justin. I've read some reviews that clarified some things for me. Sometimes I feel like, and I don't know if you guys ever feel like this as a reader, that if you're not getting something immediately and you're not getting what you think is the interpretation of it, that it's not for you, or you don't understand, or you feel too not intelligent enough to be absorbing what the writer is trying to convey, because there are a lot of people who can get something. And I will be the first to say, I feel that way a lot. And I'm saying that because this was a book that some of it I didn't feel like I was getting. And I almost feel like I'm cheating if I'm doing investigative work and reading people's reviews. But I've started to realize, hey, it's okay if you don't get all of this right away. But there's enough in this book in particular that it warrants a second look before I would classify and not write off, but summarize what I think it is. I really think it's intriguing. There were moments of it that I just felt were incredibly captivating. And by the way, I read this 2.5, almost 3 weeks ago, and I'm still thinking about it now. So I think that says something about the book. So that's why I'm going to reread it. This Other Eden is the one book that is also the crossover with the Booker Prize. So I'm going to absolutely read that. And I'm also interested in Elliot Duncan's Pony Boy, which seems really interesting that this is on the National Book Award. It seems like such a small indie book. I've just ordered Loot as well, which is something that I'd been told I would like before this prize ever came out. So that I want to try, as well as Night Watch. And I think that is, for me right now, the ones that I'm going to read. And then I'll see what ends up on the shortlist. And if there's more on the shortlist that I haven't read, then I'm going to explore the shortlist. But otherwise, those are the things that seem the most, that are calling to me. I'll say they're calling to me. So that's it. What about you guys? Are you reading any of these book awards? Do you care about these book awards? I have found in the past, the last 2 years, which I've really followed this, some of my favorite books of the year have come out of these, especially, I will say, the Booker Prize. But I ended up really reading much of the National Book Award list last year, and I liked a lot of them. So I'd be curious to hear from you guys to see, is it something you're interested in as well, or are you don't really care? Let me know in the comments. I'm going to sign off now with that little bit. I'm excited to see what ends up makes it on the shortlist for the Booker Prize. And again, if you want to check out the Gays Reading podcast this Thursday, it will be a special Booker episode. I'm going to try to come on next week with some book mail, and maybe I'll wrap up with what the 6 shortlisted titles were. I hope you're all having a fantastic day or evening wherever you are. Thank you for dropping by. I appreciate it more than you know, and I will see you all soon.